make sure that those who cannot participate today, because we have Easter holidays at some universities, that's why some of you are not here. So I will record this meeting and the other participants can then catch up later. So are there any questions or comments that you would like to ask or to make now before we go into some details? Or I can also start with waking up the round, or with starting the round a little bit and trying to make a short summary of what we've been discussing last week. So just a few slides to summarize our ideas from last week, not in very much detail. So what we are talking about is scaling, what scaling means in the context of social entrepreneurship, of social enterprises, of organizations that particularly aim for achieving a social or economical impact, right? And we were talking about how organizations can grow themselves. So organizational growth is of course an option, but in the context of growing for impact, it's also diffusion of ideas or initiating copies of your models, for instance, that can help to grow the impact, right? And as I said already, it's quite early in your projects to think about how to grow them already, but still in terms of really thinking through the processes that social entrepreneurs go through and that they have to think about while creating and developing the organizations, we thought it would be a good idea for you to start thinking about the options that you have and that might be most suitable for your organization. And just some ideas from literature in this context. Very basically, it is often discussed that scaling is an integral part of what social innovators, of what social entrepreneurs do. So first, the first pass is exploring opportunities and challenges. So thinking about what we were discussing in the very first session, what are the key challenges that need to be addressed? What are the social problems? Then generating ideas about these problems, what you have already done in the innovations module. Then ideally testing and developing and testing these models, making a strong case out of it, really contributing to the arguments that your idea is actually really linked to creating a solution, delivering and implementing, then really bringing your ideas into life and making them happen. And then after you have tested your ideas, after you know that it works, after you have implemented it and developed some experiences, typically organizations in this context tend to grow when they have also have some free resources that they have used before to develop the model and to implement the model. They can at some point, when the model has stabilized, structures and processes have stabilized, they can tend to other ideas and think about growing and scaling the ideas that they have developed, and ideally at some point initiating societal change. This is of course an ideal type of how it looks like, and you see that there is no time frame. For some organizations this happens very quickly, others need years until they come to this point of scaling, but what we would like to emphasize that this is an integral part. And while many social enterprises or organizations that aim to create social and ecological impact do remain in the local context, so many of them don't necessarily want to grow, but we would encourage everyone to think about how they not necessarily as an organization could grow, but how they can contribute to spreading ideas that work and that have been have proved to address social and ecological ideas. We have talked about last week how ideas diffuse, and this is just an example of how it is described in some literature related to social entrepreneurship, where and this we have discussed in last week, first ideas have to develop, then first movers tend to follow, so the overall change in the sector, in the economy and society is still small because there are few followers typically. At some point then there is a critical mass of users, of adopters of these ideas, and ideally at some point ideas become institutionalized, become taken for granted, become the new normal. novel, right? And at this point, societal change and transformation can actually be achieved. There are also theoretical models that link to the ones we have talked about last week that show that ideas, be it in the social, ecological context, and also, of course, in other contexts, typically need some time until they get ground. So early adopters have to be motivated and have to prove that ideas work and that ideas are effective or efficient. And then at some point, later adopters also adopt eventually the ideas, and ideas diffuse on a larger scale. A last point I think that we have also touched upon already is that ideas on the one hand diffuse through networks. So it's about how ideas flow and how contagion happens. So when you know somebody who is involved in social enterprises, you will learn about their ideas, and you can talk to others who you know about it. And this is surely true in the context of social enterprises that you develop and the ideas that you develop. So thinking about who are relevant stakeholders, who are relevant partners that can contribute to distribute ideas, or also to collect relevant resources. This is surely an important part. But we would also like to put some emphasis on cultural processes that are helpful in developing and diffusing ideas. So theorizing and communicating is quite important in this context, as we have discussed last week already. So it's about creating, for instance, a strong case why your solution actually contributes to achieving certain goals. So theorizing about this connection, about this cause and effect relationship, creating visibility, creating attention for certain ideas, as it's been done, for instance, for the Sustainable Development Goals. Creating clear categories that are understood by, broadly understood, is an important element of diffusion processes as well. And it's surely two aspects or two elements or two parts of the same coin that we should think about when thinking about diffusing our ideas more broadly. Okay, this is just a very short summary of what we've discussed last week. I don't know, is there any additions or any questions on the models that we've been discussing? If not, I think I will leave perhaps 1 minute. Any comments, questions? Everything clear? Okay, you want to start working in groups, I get it. Okay, so what we thought about, I don't know, I hope you had some time to watch the video that we recommended to you, that suggested or that talked about 5 questions that are should help you to develop a scaling strategy. And these questions are: why do I want to replicate? Why do I want to grow my offer? What is my impact goal? So being more clearly about what is the purpose, what is the mission of the organization. Do you want, for instance, to resolve a local problem, or do you want to local problem, be it poverty or unhealthy food, or do you want to contribute to saving the problem entirely across the world? So think about and be more clear about that. Then the second question is, which offer or component of an offer do you want to replicate? So is it your entire business model? Is it that you want to develop a new product or a new service? Is it that you want to broaden your customer base? Exactly. So what exactly do you want to replicate or to grow? The questions here and also in the subsequent slides that you are currently uploaded, that you can use for the group work, have a little focus on the idea of replication. So how do I create replication? How do I initiate copies of my model? Of course, they to some extent also apply to organizational growth models. So when you choose to grow as an organization, I think, or we hope that the questions will also provide some guidance for developing further your ideas and making relevant decisions. The third question is, which model do I want to use to replicate, right? So last time we discussed about what types of organizational growth there are, what types of cooperation or diffusion within networks there are, and how you can diffuse ideas more generally. So pick one of those models that you find most suitable for your idea, and of course think about why it is the most suitable. And you will get some more detailed questions to guide you on to help you make this decision. In particular, when you think about growing internationally or initiating replications internationally, then it would be also important to think about what could be next regions or countries that you could address. So would it be countries with a similar cultural background as Germany probably, or as Poland, or as the other countries in which you develop your ideas now? Or would it be a completely different country, and what difference could it make? And for your model. And then an important part surely is the question who. So which partners do you need to grow your impact? Which partners do you need to replicate the offers? We are aware that you're surely not able to think about all the questions in detail and to discuss all these questions in detail. Today surely is just a starting point for thinking about how your scaling model could look like, right? So you can go through all of them or pick one or two that you then think about in more detail. And go through some detailed questions, but of course you will probably have to meet 1, 2, 3 more times to really develop a scaling model that is sophisticated and that you feel comfortable with, and that it's really realizable to some extent. I don't know, probably there's some news in the chat.
That was only me.
Okay. Is there any questions I should ask?
No, actually, I was just reminded that we currently or recently published a report that is on scaling and touches on aspects of impact as well, which I actually forgot to share with anyone else. And it is not a must for the students, but maybe that's interesting for you to just get a sense of what kind of tools might help you in developing these things further as you go for the presentations and the assignment. So it's nothing for now, just additional resources.
Yeah, but makes surely sense to add it to the slide, so also those who cannot participate today will be able to see it. Tina, were you able to upload the slides? I assume, I hope.
Yeah, they should be able for you to access them now. So they're online. It worked for me, so it should work for you guys. Perfect.
So in the scaling module, you can now find these slides where you have all the questions that I have just presented, and of course the detailed questions. So with regard to the why questions, what do you prioritize, impact or revenue? Think about these questions. How systematic do you want to be in solving the problem? So is it like, do you want to solve it locally, or is it an idea to really, or to contribute to a betterment of the problem, or do you really want to try to solve the problem across the globe? So these kinds of questions will surely help you to think more deeply about what type of scaling and why is scaling important to you. Then think about what exactly you want to replicate or to grow. Is it the entire organization? Is it a particular program, a specific product? These kind of questions hopefully help you to make these difficult decisions. And here in particular, I think is important this question about which model do I want to use to replicate my offer. So think about, as we summarized last time, it is a question, for instance, of control. How much control do you need, or do you want to keep over your solution? Some solutions might be, for some it might be necessary to have a lot of control, which would put organizational growth, make organizational growth probably the appropriate solution to scale your impact, while when losing control is okay for you and for the model, it might be other models. Yeah, so I think probably we would suggest that we go into the groups now. You have a time to look at the slides, of course. And to look at the detailed questions and start thinking about the questions. So I think the 5 broad questions are a good start where you can think about them, and the detailed questions are of course then helpful if sometimes it's not easy to say, okay, what is the model? So what were the things we have to decide, right? So take these questions to help you get through the 5 major questions. We will again visit you in a couple of minutes, or we will give you 10 minutes time or so to start thinking, start discussing, and then come and visit you in the groups where you and have the possibility to discuss open questions again. Yeah, and I think that's it from my side. Any additions or comments or questions already? Were you able to download the slides? Yeah, I see nodding. Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, so then I can start the groups. You should be able to join the groups now.
I just have a quick organizational question. I think 2 weeks ago or in last week's session, you said every group has a mentor or kind of a contact person assigned.
Yes.
And I couldn't really find the list, or is there a list?
No, sorry, I think we didn't even upload it yet. We had some changes in the groups and in the mentors, but you will be visited by the mentors today, so you will know who is your at least one person who you can tend to. But we will share the list. So I think each of us should just write. The mentors should write the groups an email. Then you know that you can contact us, right? Sorry for that. We will do that.
Yeah, and just briefly, Sami, I wasn't able to join you last time, so I'm the one responsible because I had to settle an issue with sort of reshuffling some groups and a student that was in sort of a bit of trouble, let's say. But we sorted that out, and now that all of the groups seem to be set and there are no more dropouts or sort of reshufflings or so, that should be sort of more settled from now on. But thanks for raising that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so
sorry, and
yes, sure.
I think we had a conversation about it. I don't know with who exactly via an email. So I'm from the group which has collapsed. Like let's call it like this. So it's only me and Marie still in the group, and you asked us if we want to still like work only together, like only two of us, or we want to be separated in the groups. I don't know. So we wanted to discuss it with her, but we didn't manage to do it, and I don't know if she even here today to discuss it, so I don't know.
The second person has been allocated to a different groups as she asked to do, but I'm not completely sure now. So I think it's probably only you that we didn't allocate. That would then be actually a problem. I thought we allocated everyone. But you have no group at the moment. Or you were part of group 6, is that right? Or working on health and well-being?
I'm not sure about the number. Yes, the health and well-being. Yes.
Okay, there are 2 health and well-being groups. I only created one today because I thought that the second one is not existing anymore, but obviously you are still here, so we have to find a solution. Any ideas from the others?
Yeah, hi, if I can propose something, because one colleague from our group, he is sick and he told us this, and he will probably resign, so maybe you can join to our group. I don't know if this guy told you yet, but as we know, because so he will probably not be in our group. So we are now only 4. So maybe you can just join to our group.
That is a perfect solution to the problem. When you have a spot left, that's ideal, of course. Fedor, you could join the group immediately and start working with them.
Okay, and which group is this? Sorry?
16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Julia. Thanks for your solution.
Okay, so we are going to the group. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
I have the same problem as always. I cannot join the breakout room. Why? Am I doing something wrong? I don't know where I'm supposed to click or something.
And I keep forgetting which. It's Life Below Water? No.
Yes.
Okay, so I just put you in the group.
Thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and had interesting discussions. At least the groups I visited did intensely discuss questions about how to grow, how to stabilize their model. I also had the impression many of you want to test now with us a little bit and discuss whether the model is appropriate and good. So you are already at a point of fine-tuning it, right? I had the impression at least that you developed quite strong ideas of what you want to do and how how you want to, which goal you want to achieve and how you want to do it. And now thinking about the details and how to really realize it, what could be the first steps, what could be done a little bit later. These are the kind of questions and types of discussions that I had, at least. And I don't know, have the impression that, or hopefully for most of the other groups, it was the same. So I think you are at the good point, and we will write you shortly. Your mentors will write you shortly to offer you an appointment, right, to discuss your ideas perhaps in more detail than we can do here. And you of course always have the possibility to write us if there is any need for discussion. But probably all of you have a need to discuss in more detail their models with us. So we will do that after the Easter holidays. Okay, any other summaries, comments that are more general at this moment? Problems,
I think
things
just an impression from both groups that I visited. I think one of the things that I shared with the groups is, in a sense, maybe taking it from the impact that you want to see, and then sort of thinking about, how you could best achieve that impact, right? Rather than thinking from the organization and thinking, what's workable, where do I get my income from? I think that's very important. And we talked about impact and business model calibrations, but I think our intention generally would be that you think about the challenge and that you understand, what could the potential, contribution of innovations be, and what is exactly the impact that you want to see, right? And then deduct from there basically what you could do. So, and also with another group, we were thinking about, in a sense, how can you move beyond the converted, right? People who are sustainable anyway, and who like sharing stuff and being, sort of behaving in a responsible way. How could you level that up, in a sense, right? So how can you, to some extent, push this towards becoming mainstream? How can you tie in some kind of stakeholders that you would need to make some bigger transformations? How can you, shift attitudes? How can you shift behavior? I think that's sort of the kind of thinking that underlines this. It is also going to be picked up to some extent in, the impact focused module that we're going to have in 2 weeks. But I think, sort of implementing it from that side, or thinking it from that side, is good, and, very welcome in this context, right? So don't be too careful and too, sort of restricted already, or sort of finalized in your ideas, especially when it comes to scaling, right? So the idea is, how can you tie others in? Is it more of, some kind of a sharing model? Is it allowing others to use your platform in whatever way, and so on, right? So that's, I think, a general recommendation that I could share based on the feedback from the groups that I visited.
Okay, are there any groups who would like to tell us a little bit more about what they have been discussing? I see some laughter, so this is the group you forced to be willing to present voluntarily.
Would very much like to do that. And what they're going to focus on is a bit of showing you, they've sort of developed a process model of different kinds of elements that they want to combine. And I think that nicely shows, what kind of sort of design options you have in regard to this, and how you could be thinking about leveling things up as when it comes to this question of scaling. But I'll shut up now and hand it over to Annika.
Okay, well, I was actually going to start just sort of a brief introduction on what our project's all about. We wanted to tackle overconsumption within fashion, and like a major goal would be to change the social norms around fast fashion and kind of make it cool to be sustainable. And we would kind of want to break the echo chamber of the people who are really into sustainability and sustainable fashion, and bring more people in who aren't aware of it, or who are aware of it and just not super engaged. Yeah, just kind of changing the social norms, making it a bit cool. It's app-based, so it'll be quite interactive, and I'll do my very best to share the process, design, everything. Hopefully this will work. No, not that one. Wait. It's all good. I should be able to share, right? This should work.
You should be.
Yeah, okay, there we go, share. Okay, so this is the process flow which we've come up with, which basically sort of describes what the app's all about, and Semi will talk to you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, as Veronica said, we are trying to develop an app, and we want to make it kind of as easy to use as possible. And kind of in the beginning of the process, you would scan a piece of clothing, and then on the one side we want to create an online closet, so you kind of have all the pieces of clothing of your wardrobe in your phone. And then from there on you could kind of get recommendations for outfits, or find new combinations within your closet or with the things you already have. And then also we want to include a part of where you could sell, like maybe an own selling platform, or maybe a partnership. We mentioned Vinted here, and also in terms of swapping. So we're thinking about a lot of different options, starting from the point where you already have something and you don't want to buy it new. And then on the other side, we also have a part of repairing. So you kind of have a broken jeans or something, and you want to repair it because you really like it and you don't want to buy a new one. And we want to offer, on the one side, guides on how to repair, but also try to implement partners like local shoe makers or repair cafes or DIY shops. So you could also upcycle what you already have and make kind of a new purpose out of it without spending and without buying new clothes. And also, if you can't repair it, or you don't want to repair it, you could also replace it. So we want to implement secondhand shops, also maybe to how to find local secondhand shops, or how to find a recycle plant which fits the materials that are in your piece of clothing. So I mean, we want to focus on upcycling, and we were trying to not downcycle material as much as we can. But I mean, that's just an overview of ideas we had, where you could go from having something and giving it a new purpose, or having new options of treating these garments right. Yeah, I hope it was understandable.
Yes, as you saw, we have a lot of ideas, but when it comes to our strategy or our scaling strategy, it would be, as Veronica said, that we want to reach a mass such that we could change really behavior of the community, and such that we need to first focus on the functions which would reach the most people, and that from then on we could scale up and include more functions and also include more regions. So that might be also an issue in which languages we offer the app, and if we then increase the languages we have. And also, which is crucial to our idea, that we want to have some kind of a network, such that we could also benefit from a network effect. So in terms that we have more customers using it, maybe then the AI, for example, can also learn from it. And also that we have partners such as the local business, or we also just today talked about whether to include some brands. And of course, the more we have, the bigger the network is and the better it is. And also maybe we could also have earned some revenue from those partnerships. Yeah, so that's all in all our idea.
Thanks very much for giving us those insights. So one of the things that we were discussing in the group is in a sense, you know, if you want to move to scale, wouldn't it make sense to sort of tie in some brands and, you know, make some kind of, you know, the upcycling process, or what brands could be sort of providing for that, actually, some kind of ornamentation, some kind of restyling of what you already have, and sort of brand that instead of producing new fashion and new clothes. Could that be something that is sort of, you know, what brings you to the next level in terms of, you know, who's engaged and how many people you could reach thereby?
So just one thing about the scalability, what we also talked today on how to get also the other crowd to use our app is in our community sense. bringing celebrities, influencers, people that people already know and see, because to change the behavior, one important part is social norms. So the more people see someone doing it, I'll do it. So yeah, that's also part of our scalability strategy that we thought about today.
Yeah, I think it's great how we broke down the model and the ideas to all the options that are out there, right? And that could be thought of as reasonable. So thinking, and you started with an easy to use app, which surely would make it also more accessible and increase the visibility of the app. So it's great that you thought that through, but again, it shows how complex your model is, even if it seems just like an app, right? I mean, you would have to create a local network, or you would have to know all the repair cafes and these kind of things. So it does require a lot of cultural and local knowledge that you have to bring in. So scaling again, or you named that you needed to have it in different languages to scale across countries, but even scaling locally within one country, right? You would have to provide that information to some extent, or you can think about, okay, we focus on one part only and do not provide it everywhere fully fetched already, but going in with a minimal product. But I think it's great. It shows that you really have thought it through, and yeah, it's good to see how far you are already. I think we could take time for one more group if there is one that is willing to share their ideas too. Simon.
Yeah, I can share a little bit from our discussion. Actually, we were discussing a lot about it's a little bit a mess, but maybe it's still better to have something to look on. We were discussing a lot about the what do we want to scale actually, and then we came to the point that okay, it's somehow twofold, because we were creating an app that we on the one hand want to increase the app user base, but also scale the impact or the benefits for the users themselves also, without increasing the amount of users itself. And then we were discussing the how a little bit, but it's just a collection of some ideas that we could, for example, use the concept of share. There's a Berlin startup. I mean, they are not a startup anymore, but they are selling candy bars and bottled water, for example. And they say, okay, if you buy one water, we donate another one. And we could use this example for our revenue model, for example, that we say, okay, if you buy one subscription, we give one user one for free who's in need of it. And also we were discussing creating the awareness. So the whole concept of diffusion. For example, that education is also needed outside of school. To do that, we could work with schools together and kindergartens. And also signal our credibility via licensing, for example. Selina, do you want to add something?
I just thought maybe quite interesting. So we kind of started like with the why and went on to the what, and then we came to the how.
Yeah.
And in the process, we found that like going forward one step also brought us back to the first step. And actually, while thinking about the how and what possibilities we had, we saw that we could readjust the what, and actually saw that there were like more opportunities to scale the impact than just through scaling the kind of the number of users that are in the app. And so that was quite interesting. And actually that's why we only got until the how today, because we were
That's
like back and forth. But yeah, so kind of the ideas grew out of that, and there was maybe just like more general experience that we had today.
But it's a great point that you brought up. Thank you for that. I mean, this is an iterative process, right? So it's always a back and forth. And once you have made progress in some aspect, and surely also when you look at your business model, once you think at the partners in more detail, then channels, you move to channels, and this some new ideas come up. So it's really like developing a first idea and then working continuously on detailing them, thinking them through. But it's great to hear that it was somehow it happened automatically without us bringing that up, which we might have done, but being that you're learning, it's really great and cool to see, and a great advice, I think, to everyone. You don't, of course, have to go through these kinds of questions step by step, but this back and forth, also going back to your model now, refining perhaps your initial idea again, once you have thought it, started thinking about scaling, you have to readjust your initial idea. This can happen, of course, right? And be open to that. So, of course, you want to make progress and finalize things at some point, but I mean, this is a new project. You will probably still, after you have submitted your assignment, still have some ideas. Oh, probably we could have still changed that, and this is completely fine. This is where when that happens, we are, I think, very happy that you have become part of this, or been really intrigued in this process.
Yeah, so we are still in the progress, but I think it was enough for you to see a little bit our way of thinking and the progress.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that's actually fantastic. Don't get too lost in the details. And I think even for the assignment and for the presentations, to some degree, you need to spell things out, but we're really more interested in the big ideas and sort of the strategies of how to get there. This iterative process is really great in that regard. So don't try and tick stuff off, but instead use that to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and perhaps because you brought up the presentations, there was one question in one group asking what exactly we expect in the presentations, right? Do we have to go through all the small assignments that we had in the group work sessions? And of course, this is not what we want to do. What we would like to see from you at that point is to hear your ideas, right? So what is the point of discussion at that moment? And how does your model look like? And what is the problem that you want to solve, and how do you want to solve it? So really focus on what is the problem, and in particular, what is your solution? And you can at that point still make a pitch to us, so you can try to sell us the idea, or you can take it more analytically and say, okay, this is our model now, and these are our current challenges, and start discussing the challenges with us. So we are really quite open with regard to the format that you choose. And I think we have to talk perhaps a little bit within the team of lecturers, and perhaps give you some more guidance for the presentation. But at the moment, it's really like we want to hear your ideas, and we want to be convinced somehow by your ideas, of course. But there is not a clear format for which answers you exactly have to answer. You can or which questions you have to answer. You can focus on different elements, of course, also in the presentation, depending on how far you are, or what occupies your minds at that time. So it's really quite open, but we will repeat it, I think, in the next session, perhaps, to make sure that everybody who cannot be here because some already have Easter holidays will hear that. Okay. Any comments, questions? Then thank you very much again for lively discussion, and we will get back to you. So all the mentors will write you, so you know who to get back to. But before that, enjoy some relaxing Easter days, I hope, and see you soon. See you again in 2 weeks, right? Bye bye.